It's just the shape of the Earth. What does that matter? Does it really matter whether it's shape or that shape? So if you think of it on that level, then sure, it seems insignificant, and it seems like it could be a waste of time, even if it was true. If you think of it a little deeper than that, and you think of it as being the most fundamental lie, is where we are, what we're doing here, the earth beneath our feet, the lights in the sky above us, what they actually are. And if we've been lied about all of these, as well as the Big Bang and evolution and the way that we supposedly got here and the purpose we may or may not have in this nihilistic cosmology that they've presented, it becomes a big deal. And when you look at the potential for a truth like this, a truth that has been suppressed for 500 years now, the flat earth truth, if that gets out...
Well, it turns out I was recently in Dubai, where they have the tallest building in the world, and I did a quick calculation, and I confirmed it with others there, that in fact they print separate tables for residents at the top of this building because the sun sets later if you are at the top of that building than if you are at the base, because that building, and for you have it up there now, that's the actual tweet from the top. This building is 30% taller than what the World Trade Center was. It's crazy tall, and that's a picture I took while I was visiting Dubai. So the sun sets 2 minutes later for you at the top, because you're seeing that much farther over the Earth, curvature of the Earth. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they'd have an answer for that.
No, they can't. They wouldn't.
I don't know if they'd have an answer for that.
No, they can't. They wouldn't.
What they're saying is they're saying that the Earth is a ball and the curved shape of the horizon of the sun is disappearing beyond that. And if you go up in the tower, you'll see the sun again for 2 more minutes and watch it set again. And that's proof that it's setting beyond a ball. Yet, if you go up there and you take video 360 degrees around you, you'll see the horizon's perfectly flat all the way around you, perfectly at eye level, and it rose with you at eye level right from the base of that tower to the top of that tower, as is only possible on a flat plane. A ball, no matter how big the ball is, the horizon would stay where it is, and you'd have to tilt your head looking down more and more as you rose to see it. And of course it would also curve. The reason that you see the sunset slightly later from a higher position is simply perspective on flat surfaces. If you rise even higher than that, you'll see even farther as well. They don't seem to mention that. When you go higher in altitude, you're able to see further along a flat plane. So the sun, when it's setting, is actually maintaining its altitude and its circles over and around the flat Earth. And so from your position, due to perspective, as it goes away from you, just like a row of street lamps as they're going away from you, the one closest to you seems very high overhead and then slowly dips down more and more to the horizon. Or just like a long, narrow hallway where the floor rises up, the ceiling comes down, and the 2 walls come into a point right in the middle. That pyramid shape, that eye at the top of the pyramid, another reason for that symbol is that's the way that our eyes actually see. Our eye sees in a pyramid-type shape like that, and the sun setting down on the horizon like that is simply an element of perspective. And when it goes beyond the horizon, it's not setting beyond the curvature of a ball Earth. It's simply gone beyond the vanishing point of perspective from your point of view, which is what the horizon line is. It is not the curvature of the Earth, as you've been taught. You can think about it. If the limit of your perspective was the curvature of the Earth, and you saw a ship disappearing over it, then you look to the left, the same amount of distance, and you look to the right, the same amount of distance. Well, there's no curvature there, but that's twice the distance as the ship in front of you that you think has disappeared beyond the curvature. And then to double check this, you can take out a pair of binoculars and you'll see that that ship that disappeared beyond the horizon over the curvature of the Earth magically comes right back totally into view, hull and all. And that's because it's simply gone beyond your perspective, which you can bring back into view with technology or by gaining altitude, like by going up in a tower.
Later for you at the top, because you're seeing that much farther over the Earth, curvature of the Earth. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they'd have an answer for that.
No, they can't. They wouldn't.
It's the same thing as the ship disappearing over the horizon, you can bring these cityscapes that are supposedly refractions of light, like the Chicago skyline that made a big stir 60 miles away. Oh, it's just light being refracted. Well, use the binoculars and you can see all the way to the base of the buildings. Again, this is an artifact of perspective, that the things closest to the horizon disappear before the things farthest away. So the hull of a ship going away from you disappears before the masthead. But by using binoculars, it comes fully back into view. Just like a person walking away from you, their shoes and their ankles and then their knees and the rest of their legs are going to disappear before their head does. But that doesn't mean that they're walking over the curvature of a ball Earth. And you can prove that it's not the case with binoculars, telescope, or zoom camera, and bring the entirety of their legs, or the bottoms of the boats, or the bottoms of the cities, all the way back into view. People will say, well, why can't I then see the top of Mount Everest then? Because we've been taught that our eyesight is infinite. We've been taught that the closest star is 25 trillion miles away, and the light comes from 4.2 light years away from us. It has to take that much time just to reach our eyes. So we've been taught that our eyesight should be able to see infinite distances. But again, you've been lied to. The stars are not that far away. You can zoom in on them and they are right in your face, looking like a prismatic, constantly changing disco ball of watery electricity. And so when people ask you, why can't I see Everest from my balcony then? Again, perspective and the limited eyesight, even with a telescope, only allows us to see so far. The Earth is flat, but it's not completely flat. There's valleys, there's mountains, and you can only see so far for the converging skyline and the uprising ground meet on that horizon. Using a telescope zooms it in and you're able to see a bit further, but thanks to the atmosphere and just the limits of our perspective, based on your altitude, you can see a lot further. Like if you take a balloon up 20 miles is about as high as we can get an amateur balloon. You can see for hundreds of miles. Again, because of altitude and perspective, not because you're somehow seeing over the curve of the ball, because you're not. Because you can see in those high altitude videos that the horizon has risen 20 miles up to your eye level. Again, impossible on a ball, no matter how big the ball is. And it's flat, 360 degrees around. So you're not just seeing hundreds of miles now because you're seeing over the curvature of the ball. No, your perspective is now greater because you've attained a higher altitude. And if you have a telescope from that altitude, maybe you could see Mount Everest. Nobody's actually tried that experiment.